Whoa, episode 7.
The quarantine one.
Yeah, the one where I self-isolated. I didn't think we'd ever get to this point.
Nor did I, Speed. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm all right. Just
hello from the other side.
Yeah, cooped up. Can't complain really. Just trying to keep people safe. This is what happened.
Holiday?
Yeah, it was really lovely actually, to be honest. The weather down in South France, it was a strong like 25 to 30 most days, but you know how a London 25 degrees is like, can still be a bit overcast, still be a bit sticky, but like where it's just like out on the sticks, where I was, it's just really pure sunlight. So it was actually really, really hot. Got a bit of a tan, which you can't really see, which is a bit upsetting because that's all our holiday for. But
any bad burns to write home about?
No, well, I did stupidly get a sunbed before, and I hadn't had one in a long, long time. I'm absolutely not advocating that to any of our younger listeners. Take care of yourself, and our older listeners. Had a bit. I went on to holiday with a bit of a burn, but it's eased down nicely. Yeah, you know.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a personal question?
Absolutely.
What's your preferred sun cream?
I mean, I would never go any higher than 20.
I mean, I'm fat. I'm just 50 all the time.
I was going to say, you look like a 50 guy.
Unless I've had a few beers and I just don't put any on. That's quite often.
I used to, when I was more young and more cavalier, I used to go on holiday and just think, right, I'm just going to get really burnt, not bother, and just let it turn into tan.
Like, let it sort of like mature or like, yeah.
Yeah, and, health-wise, just a very, very irresponsible way to go about things.
I think we've all been there. I remember once I went on holiday and did do you remember that P20 stuff that you supposedly could it was like invisible, like oil. It was like the first of its kind. I remember just putting it on and like jumping in the pool like 20 minutes later and just getting absolutely scalded. Schoolboy.
We were schoolboys.
We are. We still are at heart.
Yeah.
We're gonna die young.
Representing. So yeah, we're here. First video. This could become a thing, maybe.
The Beccs Video Pod.
I mean, there are some faces down at the club which would be much more suited to, a weekly video catalogue of Beck's life. Much better looking folks than us.
See, because I'm still pretty new to podcast life. Like, I've recently just started Crouchy's podcast. Shout out the Peter Crouch podcast. I'm loving it. Just slap it on after work every day. Listen to at least an episode and a half. And I think that once you get into podcast life and get like work whilst listening to something, I don't know. But look, again, I could be wrong. I'm excited for the video and excited to see how it goes down. So yeah, all buzz. Buzz.
Well, I mean, like we posted today, definitely this one and next week's one, which could potentially have a guest in.
That would be good. To be fair, there was a few shouts at training today saying, would they be able to join on to tonight's? And, I had to politely decline, but that's a great shout. There's maybe room for a pod in the future where just random people just join on.
Yeah, it could be a lottery. If we get 20 willing people and we just pick at random and hope that they're interesting, which...
I like the sound of that.
Looking at some of the blokes we play with, it's not very likely.
One thing I've just got to talk about. So Speed, obviously, I haven't been down at the club recently. George Tossell has bought an electric scooter, and by God, it is fantastic.
Are you joking? Like the old scooters, but just with like a motor on it?
Yeah, like the ones you see everyone riding at the moment.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, so
What is he
he's got
doing?
he's got one of them. To be fair, he looks quite cool on it, but yeah, I think he's it takes a full charge of battery obviously to get up and running, and he's using half it just to get from Hayes Lane to Becks. So you've got to ask the question. Value for money.
Yeah, and for our overseas listeners, that ain't a big distance.
That's what happens when you skimp on a lithium battery.
Lithium battery. You've got to use lithium batteries properly.
Come on, come on.
I mean, but then again, fuel economy, um, distance over time, not exactly things we normally associate with George Tossell.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just maybe cottoned on to that. He really does have a carbon footprint, and I'm glad that he's really looking
Getting
into
woke,
that.
one could say.
Woke. I mean, I just don't want to get started on that
I
word.
hate that word. I hate that word so much.
I hear so many meanings of it as well.
Yeah, some bad, some good.
Mm.
But I think the main point of that conversation is, for a 35-year-old man, I think the scooter probably doesn't suit him that much.
People can't believe he's still a year younger than me and 2 years younger than you. Fantastic,
2 years, mate.
mate. I have to feel like I'm digging him out tonight, but he shaved his own hair tonight before training and forgot a bit on the back right here, like a strip.
A little tail.
Hilarious. It was like reverse mullet. So good. So
Classique.
good. Anyway, back to
Yeah.
the reason we're all here, ladies and gentlemen.
Gentlemen.
Dave,
Yes.
watch any rugby this weekend?
Yeah, I did. I've been quite up to date with all the highlights over the last couple of weeks. Sale finally finding a bit of form. Wasps looking pretty good.
Wasps are decent.
Wasps look good. And to be honest, I think it'd be very harsh to say that their turn of fortune has been because Dai Young left. Because let's be honest, world-class coach, very well respected. And I think what is probably very satisfying about that set of results is the fact that squad has always had it in them.
Yeah.
A
lot of good players in there.
And some of the younger players really taken the spotlight, mate. The Willis brothers, notably Jack. Jack's the one
Jack Willis is the 7, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I think Tom is a back row as well, but mate, that.
So is Tom Young and Jack? Is it Tom Young and Jack Willis?
No. So there's two Willises. There's Jack Willis and Tom Willis, and Tom Young.
But Tom Young's been playing in the back row as well, hasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he's pretty decent as well.
Yeah, they're a decent outfit. And is it Jacob Umaga as well?
Yeah, he's looking pretty sharp.
Will he fight? Will he step out of the shadow of that family name?
Yeah, so I did a little. I looked into that a bit. His uncle is Tana Umaga, and as I'm not a Kiwi and I don't look at him in a very romantic sense. I mean, although I probably wasn't even into rugby at the time, I still find it very hard to forgive him and was it Kevin Mialamu for what they did to Brian O'Driscoll.
Yeah, shout out Bod.
Shout out the Bod. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, that Jacob awful spear was that was like I remember that was the first time I ever heard the term spear tackle.
Yeah,
it really was a spear.
Well, that was 2005 Lions, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was.
I mean, it's not even like they needed to go for him and like cut out our danger man.
Thing is, Kevin Mialamu never looked like a really evil bloke, and he just absolutely. He had a dose of head loss before the game, I think.
Yeah, I mean, first ruck, wasn't it? Just so calculated. Yeah. So calculated.
Upsetting, really.
Yeah, it is. It is. It keeps me up at night. Yeah, so Sarries, obviously a big talking point from that game, which we'll address after. But, so they lost to Wasps ahead of their Champions Cup quarter-final, which, let's be honest, it'd be very Saracens of them to win that.
It would. It would. And to be fair, I know we've been digging into Sarries, but I've actually enjoyed the last few weeks how they haven't just rolled over and they've actually been putting in some performances. I think it's very clear that obviously next year they're going to play a really strong team. But I mean, just it's nice to see some of their signings playing straight away too. So pretty
Yeah,
cool. Pretty cool.
yeah, not
I
just
watched
kind of.
I watched very attentively the George Skivington derby on I think it was Saturday or Sunday.
Oh, Gloucester,
Gloucester
London.
versus London Irish. It was just literally like someone would take the lead, someone would score. Someone would take the lead, someone would score. But my beloved London Irish, they're just. I think they're in their mind now that they're safe. It's just playing for next year. I think.
You can't really tap into that like that athletic, bloodthirsty, like will to win when you know it's kind of irrelevant the results.
And I think when you come up in the Premiership sense, when you come up, you're always just thinking survive and not do the whole yo-yo Newcastle Falcons drop down, come up, drop down, come up. So I think for them this year was always about just doing it. But I mean, they've made some big signings as well, and it's so weird. I think people have obviously arrived and signed contracts thinking ready for next season, and actually they're sort of playing out a season they've had no part in. It's a bit of a strange one. So
I mean, it's not necessarily spectacular, but it is a spectacularly kind of peculiar set of circumstances.
yeah, I mean, also like so. The season finishes end of October, and then they get a month. I'm assuming that month just goes straight into pre-season. Well, I say pre-season. There won't be a pre-season. I'll probably get like the old classic winter break.
No, yeah, exactly. And, you know, after what James Haskell said in The Good, the Bad and the Rugby recently about how, he hasn't woken up and not felt in pain since he was 23,
Yeah.
kind of stresses the question, player welfare, playing out the remainder of this season, having a month off, for internationals, they're going to be having, for the British internationals, a couple of Six Nations games. Then you've got the now potentially eight-team competition.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not exactly looking like they're trying to right any of the wrongs of what Hartley was saying.
But even that 18, the competition. So Fiji have still stayed in, haven't they? But Japan have dropped out.
Yeah.
There's talks of Georgia or even South Africa replacing them. So I mean, if you look at someone like South Africa coming over, sort of a tournament that is fairly meaningless becomes quite, like a real series of test matches.
Yeah, it does definitely turn them into test matches, doesn't it?
Interesting. We'll keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what, mate? We've spoken a bit about Premiership and we haven't even really spoken about the most exciting team in the Premiership. Who am I going to say?
Bristol.
Yeah.
I was just having a chat with DLB in the car about how good Semi.
What's that?
How good is Semi? I'm going to say his name wrong. Semi Radradra, is that right?
Yeah. So apparently there is 2 silent N's. So it's Semi Radradra.
So okay, he is an absolute boss. Like, try and compare him. Is he already in his short stint like the most talented player to ever play in the Premiership?
I mean, you think about players of that similar standard and like have had the same impact as he has. You've got someone like Nicky Gonover on his couple of years at Leicester. He played very similar to him, just like a bulldozing freak that could.
DLB cited that, potentially the greatest impact since Charles Piutau joined Wasps.
Another very similar one. And yeah, I mean, he almost converted that into silverware, his stint, didn't he? Obviously losing.
Or Andy Goode joining Newcastle Falcons for the rest of the season.
I don't want to talk about that bloke. Yeah, that was also very influential. I mean, I think in terms of pure talent, take away what he's actually done on the pitch. In terms of pure talent, I don't think there's ever been a more talented player to play in the Premiership.
He's got an insane beard as well. He's got an insane step.
Yeah.
And I'm using just DLB a lot as my like sort of Wikipedia, but he was saying that when Ashton had his stint at Toulon and he had, was it 24, 26 tries?
He was like 28.
No wonder when he was literally playing on Semi's shoulder every weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you dug a bit into the data, I'd be very interested to know how many assists came from that man Semi.
That's actually a good point. We always hear about assists in football. You never hear about. Is there like an assist lead in rugby?
No, so obviously in the
Why?
last.
Why not? Come on.
I don't know. Like you know how we do the rugby questions on here as part of the quiz. Obviously, a lot of the time I spend looking at like Rugby World Cup history, and all the categories are like caps, points, conversions, penalties, tries, but you never get try assists.
That's what I'm saying. Is it because it's like there's more of a build-up? I don't know. Like, I don't know. It just seems a bit weird. Like, it'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a. I don't know. I'd be very interested to know who has like international Premiership. Maybe that'll be a bit of a self-isolating research.
Good point. Now let's go to the bit part of the weekend that we've been delaying talking about. Take us away, Owen Farrell. Thoughts?
Right. Do you know what? I've always had a love-hate relationship, and I say that chronologically. Well, no, backwards chronologically. Used to hate him. Used to think like before he really got on the England stage, I used to think he was just a angry little bloke. You know, much bigger. Like he had a much bigger ego.
Huge chip on his shoulder.
Exactly. But then when he started playing well for England, and he obviously honed his aggression a bit. I loved him. Absolute, like there's no one I'd want more to like captain my country. Like I just admired him every single thing he does. So now I've actually taken it quite personally, and I've taken it quite bitterly. The backlash he's got. I mean, obviously it's a red card straight up. Like you cannot do that. I've even seen some people try and say, "Oh, well, he dipped into it." No, like he's approached that tackle recklessly with every risk of that happening. It's a red card, probably a lengthy ban. Like I don't have any qualms about that.
I think the main worry for them is obviously they've got their Champions Cup clash with Leinster, haven't they? So coming up, but yeah, I mean, so I totally agree with you. I think bad tackle, but I mean, there's people that are just so keen to be like his technique is so bad, it was gonna happen and all this, and yeah, it may be fair, but I don't know. We just have a habit in this country of just absolutely annihilating one of our own when they do something wrong.
Mate, literally.
Maybe I'm being naive or ignorant. I don't know.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, you before we started doing the pod, you mentioned someone commented on it. What do you think about that?
Say that again.
So we were chatting before, and you said about was it Clive Woodward had something to say about it?
Yes. So Sir Clive said that in his opinion, there was a lot of maybe pent up frustration from the final against South Africa. And I mean, love Clive. What a bloke. Hearing a lot of weird stories about him recently, about how he was maybe respected, but equally maybe not as respected in some senses. And I just think he's got that wrong. Yeah. Just say it's a bad tackle, let him serve his ban and move on.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like, mate, I'm forever grateful for the team of 2003 that won the World Cup for England. And there's a lot of players from there that aren't like this and are absolutely sweet. Like Mike Tyndall, to make an example, he's not someone that is still trying to ride that bandwagon. But someone like Sir Clive, he just has to get that little tiny bit about like the World Cup and all this kind of. I mean, if we'd have lost that final, he wouldn't be relevant. No one would know who he is. Like, I just don't get it.
Have you listened to the Jason Leonard episode on Good, Bad and Rugby?
Mate,
Honestly,
Mate.
what a belter. Cannot recommend highly enough. Number one, Jason Leonard is an absolute hero. His stories are insane.
Yeah.
Number two, some of the inside goss he gives, or just stories you've never heard. But honestly, I don't want to ruin it for you. Highly, highly, highly recommend. I actually think he's maybe my favourite. Well, it's a bit of a claim. I reckon. No, actually, I reckon he's my favourite player. Of what do you call it? Like a legend.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I actually remember after the World Cup, me and a good pal Jack Merter, we went shout out Mertz. We went to Alders in Bromley. Remember Alders in Bromley, the department store where Primark is now?
Used to do a banging
And
breakfast in there.
yeah, he was doing like a picture, like a meet and greet in there. And I actually need to dish this picture out somewhere. I reckon Mert's mum's got it. I need to find it. Shock, I had a proper like shaven neo-Nazi skinhead. Get that bit out. But I remember him being a don then.
Jesus. I mean, we're just breaking away more bits to his like fascinating persona.
Yeah, exactly. And he's from Barking, so he's like fair. I'm not saying local, but like local-ish.
He
So I
just,
just like him.
yeah,
But
he just.
sorry,
No, go on.
I loved what he said about grassroots rugby. Like he was saying, give me a Premiership team, and give me a like a random league. Well, like he said, junior. Obviously, not saying that
It's
men.
meant like amateur.
Yeah, he was like, give me an amateur club, and I'll go there every day of the week. He said the vibe there, the atmosphere, people like genuinely like happy, and I think to be fair, he's just one of those blokes. He's pretty honest about it, and for him to say that, given all his experience, is pretty amazing. I think.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Just seems like a very, he's like a working class hero. And I know he's not probably not work. He's not working class anymore. He's obviously like Mr. Corporate these days. But he was
Yeah.
just like, you could tell from his story, just a working class lad. Started playing rugby because he was a big bloke, liked his football, started playing rugby, and ended up being, he's the only English centurion ever.
How nuts is it, yeah, that someone like him, for us just to imagine, and probably kids to imagine, obviously, kids, juniors probably having very little idea about who he is, but how insane is it to imagine that someone like that was playing for England and holding down a job at the same time? Obviously, like they would have gotten away with so much more, and they did, but
Yeah.
like he was a carpenter, wasn't he?
Yeah. He said he was a carpenter.
And I think like it was the same for like Will Carling. Like he was like just having a normal job, playing rugby on the weekends. Like insane.
Yeah, and like, mate, as a prop as well. When they used to have those gnarly scrums where it would just be like bang.
Mm,
And who knew that he was injured, like really early on, that could have ended his career?
mm.
Mate, what an absolute hero.
Mate, that's what I'm saying. I just love him. I think he's such a listen. Well, I'm actually going to put a link to his episode in one of ours. So good. Highly recommend.
Yeah, they'll probably, their listeners will probably shoot up quite a bit.
By one.
Yeah, so Owen Faz, yeah, do you know what? He's going to get a ban, whatever. Just get on with it. Like,
Get over it. Get over it. I mean, but even so as a comparison, I feel like in the rugby world, that's getting as much hype as like Phil Foden and Mason Greenwood getting kicked out of the England squad in the football world. And it's just like, I don't know, mate. Again, if I'm being ignorant, kill me.
But mate, like, I'm sure I could make a meme out of this, but it's like the British press when Marcus Rashford highlights the fact that children are going hungry. They're a bit like, oh, okay, yeah. Then it's like Mason Greenwood brings a girl home to a restaurant. Everyone's like, they just love the bad news. The bad news sells.
Yeah.
And money talks, baby. Money talks.
Yeah. Money talks. Money talks. Dirty cash, I want you. Dirty cash, I need you. Oh. Money talks. Listen, money talks.
Let's go.
Right. So, Speed, this is going to be the first time, guys, and this is really important why we wanted to go through this change, that we actually wanted to give you a chance to, give you guys a chance to hear maybe some of our thoughts on the next round of fixtures. And we're really lucky that by the time you get to hear this pod for the first time on Wednesday, there is a round of games starting tomorrow. But on Wednesday, I mean, we've got some really, really big games. So maybe, Speed, should we just do a little predictions?
Yeah, definitely.
So
what were you saying, Fog, about what we want to do now?
Well, I mean, so Speed, I think the main reason we've gone for the change is so that we can actually preview some games and hopefully you guys... Yeah, and I think, given the fact that we're always a week behind and a pod lands on a Monday, and then we're essentially, you guys are essentially listening to our preview and our opinions on games that have already happened. So it'll be really nice, especially for those of you listening on Wednesday when this drops, for maybe our own thoughts and opinions. So Speed and I are just going to run through a few predictions, really, of the games on Wednesday. So, Speed, Exeter at home to Gloucester, the early kickoff, 5:30. I might try and watch that before training, actually. Thoughts?
Yeah, Exeter have got a bit of a kind of United vibes about them in football. I know not the same history, but they've just got...
In terms of what? Just grinding out wins? Or...
Yeah, I just feel like they've got a very kind of natural... not natural, actually. I think they've got a lot of homegrown players. They're just a very dominant side.
As well. It'd be sort of nice to see them go on and win it a few years in a row without being that person that says, like, God, obviously, like, I love seeing different winners of stuff all the time, and I like seeing teams like switch it up and spend a few quid and lead a charge in it. But they've sort of just been really unlucky because of the Sarries sort of dynasty being at the same time. They've lost out on a few league titles that, had that Sarries team not been there, they would have won. So, yeah, I think they're going to be head and shoulders above this year, and I think they're probably going to put a few points past Gloucester. However, I think there's going to be a high-scoring game.
I think it is. I mean, someone we didn't mention earlier when talking about Gloucester was your mate, Louis Rees-Zammit.
Oh, I love him.
Oh, my wheels.
So I actually read an article in the week that they're saying that, I mean, this is probably BS, because I can't see it happening anyway. But they're saying because he's not been fully capped by Wales, that England will try and tap him up.
Imagine.
Can you see? Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, that'd be buzz.
Yeah.
He's class.
I saw that...
he's just so composed for someone so young.
So young. And just like banging in the tries. Just as a quick side note, someone else, another foreigner that we were looking to, that Eddie Jones had his eye on, is now impossible to... Well, he hasn't played for him yet, but he's, Hoskins Sotutu has been selected by the All Blacks, so you've got to think that probably closes the door on his England career. Yeah,
I mean, I never thought that was going to happen anyway.
Mate, just really quickly for 5 seconds, did you watch the North vs South game?
Mate, I haven't. I was fuming. Was it George Bridge or won it at the end?
Will Jordan, mate.
Will Jordan, sorry. George Bridge is another one, isn't he?
Yeah, he's another...
Can you send me some highlights or something?
I will send you the highlight video that I watched because, mate, it is just an absolute celebration of all things flair.
Mate, why? So they haven't done it in... is it 33 years they haven't done it in?
Something like that.
Did you hear the story about someone just found the trophy in some random cupboard in Eden Park and was like...
Yeah.
And do you know what the worst part is? I swear it was a bloke who'd worked there for years. So he was probably the one that threw it away years ago.
That's so jokes. Sorry, tangenting there.
That's all right.
Yeah, I'm going to go...
Like we should, in all honesty, that we should... I don't know. We can... Yeah, so Exeter win?
Easily.
Okay, Wasps at home to Leicester?
There is one game before that, actually. Looks like Bristol are playing Northampton on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously by the time this pod drops, that game will have already happened.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
I can
stupid.
just see Bristol wiping the floor with Northampton.
Yeah,
Northampton are
absolutely.
actually falling a little bit.
Yeah, real underperformers since the COVID break.
Yeah, but also, have you seen how the Champions Cup is going to look differently next year? So it's the top 8 teams will get into it. So it's obviously really important that because I think obviously Sarries are 12th. I think Worcester 11th,
No,
Leicester are 10th, Irish
Leicester.
are 9th.
Mm,
Irish are just above Leicester now, and then Gloucester are like 6 points ahead of Irish. So I think it's well, actually they're probably more now after the weekend. But
yeah.
my point is that I think there'll be people vying for a couple of spots. So
Yeah, on the biggest stage. Seems a bit silly, really, that 8 of our teams will, but there you go. Um, yeah, Wasps Leicester.
I
There's
can
only,
see Wasps winning that quite clearly. But
yeah,
I mean, so since Steve Borthwick's come in, there is some signs that there is some changes that have gone on at Leicester.
Big Nandolo.
Yeah, I mean, he's just an absolute unit, isn't he?
He's a freak.
When when I was in Cornwall, like me and my dad managed to Chromecast the game London Irish Leicester to like from his phone to the screen, and
Yeah.
we were just both amazed because it was the first time we'd ever used Chromecast. But anyway, so my dad's who like watches a fair amount of rugby, but wouldn't know like many players and stuff. He was like, "Oh, what's that like?" Not prop, but he sort of was like, "What's that forward doing on the wing all the time?" And I was like, "Mate, he is an absolute tank.
Gas as well.
Don't ever disrespect him like that because he will run man down."
Man like Nemzi.
Exactly.
Man
So
like
yeah,
Nemzi.
what's to beat Tigers?
By 30.
I'm loving an early kickoff as well. We could actually watch one of those.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Sale Sarries at the famous AJ Bell Stadium.
I mean, would you liken Sale to the Stoke? You know, can they do it on a Wednesday night at the AJ Bell?
I believe it was a Tuesday, but that is a very good question. I mean, again,
For the
with
sake of
Sarries
argument.
at the moment, like, I mean, you're finding a lot of teams to cope with the congested fixture pile are
Mm.
fielding 2 different teams, just to try and keep rotation and stuff. But Sarries just seem to be strong on both sides. So, but again, Sale and Bristol, you might argue are two in most in form. I mean, am I wrong to say that? Sale just can be amazing. I mean, Sale Africa are just brilliant.
Yeah, they are exciting. I could just never really discount Sarries even away. You know.
No, that's what I'm saying. But I mean, so you back Bristol. I mean, there's obviously Exeter have run away with it now, but I mean, Sale and Bristol are just vying for second place now, really, aren't they?
Yeah, which would
But then
be
Ross are not that far behind them either.
no. Yeah, they're currently fourth after that win at Bath.
But they're only fourth. They're only 4 points behind Sale.
Really?
And two behind Bristol. So
That
yeah,
is a turnaround.
yeah. I mean,
I would
especially
love.
like what to get because are they still doing like a playoff and stuff?
I think so. I've not heard
Yeah.
anything to say otherwise.
Yeah.
Can you imagine like a summer's day, Wasps playing against Bristol in a
Yeah.
Premiership semi? That would just be sex.
Yeah. Pen kits as well.
Oh,
Right. Bath Worcester.
Bath for me.
Bath just at the Rec are just another force at a crowdless Rec.
Yeah, crowdless wreck. I relate.
And finally, London Irish Harlequins, which even though it's at London Irish, it's also held at the Stoop because so this the Stoop Derby.
Yeah, the Stoop Derby. I don't know. Sometimes, like with Quins, I feel like sometimes they listen to what Guzzy says, and when they do, they play unreal. And then other weeks,
Yeah.
it's like they just don't buy into his plan and they play terrible, because there's
Yeah.
no way that a coach like him, if he had recipient players, they would play like that all the time, or at least similarly. But sometimes, some like I don't know, it just doesn't seem. I think like what you said earlier, I think a lot of teams and a lot of coaching setups weren't prepared to have this last bit of the season.
Mate, totally. And if you're looking at other leagues, so am I right in saying that the French league finished and then now they've just started again?
Yeah.
Am I right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
like a lot of teams would have probably secretly been hoping that, league gets void or whatever, or as standings finish now, and having that time to build. Like you look at Steve Borthwick, like he's probably thinking actually he'd much rather 6-week pre-season under his belt and just go in fresh again. But then again, maybe it's just a chance to the classic to blood the young lads, as what's happening with some clubs.
Yeah. Yeah. And as soon as you said about teams not being prepared, someone like Steve Borthwick came to my mind, and you thought like, yeah, someone like him, you would just much prefer an actual block of weeks where he could, start them to get used to his systems, have a bit of time to actually get to know some of the players. But
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll find some use in it. But yeah, talking about Quins, I've got a feeling Irish nick it by like 3.
Mate, the thing is, Irish when they're on it, they can actually score points,
Mm.
and they've got as we spoke about once before. Like the thing is, they've got a few decent lads at the moment. So they've got Ben Loader on the wing. You might know him.
Unit.
And they've also got this other bloke called Ollie Hassel-Collins, and they're both like very, very decent players. But you just know that someone like Bath is going to come in for them, next season. And
Yeah. He's the one with the luminescent lid, Ollie Hassel-Collins.
Yes.
And some could also argue that that fixture is I can see Irish by 3. What do you reckon?
I hope so, my friend. I really do hope so. I'd love them to get a few results. And look, I don't care if they finish 10th or 11th, but considering they're throwing around a few quid, it would be nice to know that, they're actually climbing the ranks. That Augustine Creevy, when he came, and a few players have said that they're looking at getting like a top 4 finish next year. I can't see that happening.
It was like at the start of this season.
Even though they're getting out the checkbook, they're just getting like the wrong type of player.
Yeah.
Like there's no really creative back there. I've got a feeling they've absolutely forked out for Paddy Jackson.
Well, this is what I was going to say. At the start of the season, they signed Paddy Jackson, Sean O'Brien.
Yeah.
Well,
in fairness, Sean O'Brien was last year but got injured. Yeah, but so Sean O'Brien, they got those two, the Adam Coleman, the Aussie second row.
Yeah.
Kepu, the Aussie tight end.
Kepu, yeah.
Yeah, they've got. I think that's it. But in fairness, they're probably taking home a fair wedge each.
Yeah, and
they've just signed that Rob. Who's the other Aussie second row? Rob
Simmons.
Yeah, they've signed him as well.
Yeah, and around the time when those 4 players were signed, I think it was kind of seen as an opportunity to like bolster the squad and chase like a high table finish, but it just hasn't really materialised, has it?
Yeah, and I think that's ambitious. The year after coming up is ambitious anyway. I think again, and not obviously this is going to sound wild, but they're also spending insane amounts of money. Obviously, trying to relocate to London. They've obviously moved into Brentford's new stadium from September. But also that which looks insane, by the way. Obviously it's a football stadium, but when they do the visual up for rugby, it looks mad.
Let's have a look at that.
But yeah, I'll send you a picture. But that looks good. But also they're spending a lot of money revamping their training grounds in Sunbury, and I think it's Hazelbank at Sunbury. And obviously, they've always had a good academy, and I think if you look at some of the England players that have come through there now and stuff, there's always someone that has a bit of a connection. Like, you've got Jonathan Joseph and Joe Cokanasiga.
Anthony Watson.
Yeah, mate, Joe Cokanasiga. Am I chatting shit there? I think he.
No, he was, because you remember the last time they were in the championship, he just before he got an England call up, he scored that nuts try in the championship,
Yeah.
and that was around the time him and like a couple of other unknown people. I think that was when I think Ellis Genge got his first call up then, and it was all a bit like, what is he doing? Because Eddie Jones named those two.
Yeah.
And obviously one of them was in the championship. So yeah, you are right. He was.
But also, I know him right now because his younger brother, got his debut for Phil Cokanasiga got his debut on the weekend. So
yeah. I haven't seen him. I hope he's as much of a beast as Joe.
Doesn't look it at first glance, but hey,
what can you do?
Tables turn, bridges burn. You live and learn.
You live and learn. Yeah, I'll be excited to look back next week and see how accurate our shouts were. You know?
Say that again?
I'll be excited to look back next week and see how accurate our predictions were for the matches.
That would be fantastic. Fan-bloody-tastic.
Definitely something.
Imagine, mate, if they all come in, we're doing an Aki the following week.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Although, gamble responsibly, guys. When the fun stops, stop. That's all I can say.
You can also take breaks on the app as well, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
But the other thing, and then finally, I'm just trying to think of any other news around the game. I don't know if you've seen that. Twickenham are trialling could potentially have up to 20,000 for England bars, which I don't know when that is, but I think they're just
October.
Yeah, potentially.
Mid-October?
Again, I don't know how that works when they've got the other games going on too, but it's one of those fixtures that happens every year, doesn't it? So, What do you think of the bars?
Mate, I love them, and I'm so glad that they're such an important. I see them as so important. I literally love
if you're into rugby and you literally love everything they stand for. I think it's jokes. Just the simple thing of wearing your club socks and still playing in the same kit is just insane.
Yeah, and as cliche as it sounds, like it is. The bars are an embodiment of everything that's really good about rugby. Inclusivity.
Going back to Jason Leonard, he was talking about the Lions, and is he the chairman of the Lions now?
Yeah, I think they change it every tour, and he's this one.
Yeah, I think they do, but just a bit in terms of a rugby specific thing, he was just talking about how important the Lions is, even in the modern game. And I thought it was really cool because someone like him, who you could tell grew up in a football background and then ended up loving this game so much. And I think, I don't know, I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. And once you understand the Lions and the hype about it, it is just through the roof. And the bars is the same. Does get a bit worn out sometimes in terms of some people feel like they sort of milk a few internationals out of it, but watching them play is always jokes.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see any problem with it, to be honest. It's just,
nor me.
It's something for the purists.
Exactly, and I am one of those.
Oh, baby, am I pure? You know how it is. How's the rest of your week looking?
So I'm back to school speed. My what do you call it? Your break? What's an extended break called? An extended break, my extended summer, my sweet Indian summer is over. Shout out, what was his name? Neil Dawes.
Neil Dawes.
Remember my one final adieu to rugby. Adieu. Yeah, mate. So back at school, kids are back, having a good time. Yeah, loving it really. Obviously, very, very tired. This body is not used to this many training sessions and school days. But listen, I'm loving it. How's your week? The rest of your week looking?
got a lot of life admin to do, which I've been putting off for a while. But now that I'm isolating, I need to get on with just a lot of kind of um, filing stuff, update some records. Got to look at doing some stuff with my car. It's really
Sorted
boring.
TV license out, stuff like that.
Yeah, balancing the checkbook, checking all the the spiel.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of nonsense.
Sounds like you got a lot of fun ahead of you, mate.
I really don't. You'll see me in Verdansk, plenty.
So, David, have we reached the end of this week's Beccs video pod?
I think we have. The samba is beckoning.
That was Fireball. Fireball could actually work,
Oh, that would actually work. Yeah, but it's patented though, isn't it?
Yeah, true. Can't do that.
Yeah. Brazilian samba's good because, no one really owns it. So it's fabulous.
Yeah, especially when it's sung out of tune like we do so well.
We couldn't do it less justice, eh?
Yeah, but guys, thank you for listening and watching if you're doing both. And like we said, this is just something we're trialing out, and we thought something good to do. We've had a bit of a break, and we're really keen to get back to it, especially with rugby stepping up. And yeah, really excited as always to hear your thoughts and feedback on this week. It's been quite chill, quite casual getting back into it. And we're looking forward to having a guest next week. So keep your eyes peeled. We're now going to a Wednesday release as opposed to a Monday. And we hope you enjoy all your rugby that's going back on. Just a quick shout out to the club. This Saturday, we're hosting a Ready for Rugby Day, which there's going to be rugby played from, I think, juniors all the way up to seniors and ladies. So there's just really a big inter-club tournament, which everyone will be playing Ready for Rugby. And it just hopes to be a good day. I think the club hasn't been subjected to that many people in a good while. So if you fancy coming down just to watch or support or just have a few beers, please do. We will be following COVID regulations and also having a great time.
Sounds good, mate. I wish I could be there.
Oh, also, there's something that I need to plug. So there's a shop, like a club shop, that you can, if you basically do all your shopping through this link, then the club gets donations and fundraising.
Right. Okay.
So I literally don't know much about it, but I'll put the link. We can put a link in, or maybe do a post about it. But if you use this link, it literally has every shop from like ASOS to like Waterstones. So basically, if you go through this portal to do your shopping, then every time you do, the club gets like a percentage through like free fundraising.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
so maybe we just need to shout that. Look, we can edit that bit out anyway. But yeah, so free fundraising for Beccs. Link in bio.
Link in bio. Like and subscribe.
Always wanted to say that. Link in bio.
Link in bio. Like and subscribe.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We hope you enjoy, ladies and gents. Happy Wednesday. We look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Until next week, the Beccs Rugby Pod.
We are the Beccs Rugby Video Pod.
See ya.